I have commanded 17 planetary subjugations and 4 hostile annexations. I have stood on the bridge of the Vrethkai Eternal Dominion while star systems burned at my order. Not once, not in 17 campaigns or 4 annexations, has my scale ripple reflex activated uninvited. It activated within 4 seconds of meeting Fletcher. The human materialized in our docking bay at 0600 standard. We had expected a general. We had transmitted the invasion coordinates, the fleet formation count, and a detailed summary of our military capability, specifically so that whoever Earth sent would arrive understanding the full weight of what was about to happen. Fletcher arrived holding a roll of gray tape in his left hand and a bent screwdriver in his right. Wearing gray coveralls with so many pockets, it took me 3 seconds to count them. He stepped off the transport pad, looked up at the ceiling and said, without greeting, without acknowledging the honor guard standing at full attention on either side of him, "That conduit bracket is installed backwards." My dorsal spines shifted. Sayari, my Qualathi Fleet intelligence officer, had prepared a 17-point briefing on human negotiation tactics. She had her tablet in both hands when Fletcher walked onto the command bridge and delivered her opening line. "Welcome to the Vrethkai Eternal Dominion, human representative," before Fletcher walked directly past her toward the central console, which had been sparking intermittently for 6 days, and which our engineering team had classified as cosmetic and non-urgent. All 4 of Sayari's eyes tracked him. Her primary violet ones followed his path. Her pale yellow temple eyes drifted toward her tablet and back, her crest tilted sideways. Fletcher crouched in front of the console and pressed 2 fingers flat against the panel casing. The console sparked directly at his face. He did not move. He produced a small handheld light from one of the 17 pockets, aimed it into the panel gap, and said, "There it is," with the quiet satisfaction of someone who found exactly what they expected. "There what is," I said. "Loose coupling on the secondary relay. Someone's been bypassing it instead of replacing it." He looked up. "How long has this been sparking?" 6 days, Sayari said, before I could stop her. 6 days. He made a sound of professional disappointment. He pulled a piece of tape from the roll, pressed it across the relay coupling, smoothed it flat, and stood up. The console stopped sparking. The bridge went completely silent. My scales rippled from crown to tail, the full involuntary flash, silver green washing down my entire body in a wave I could not suppress. My dorsal spines shot upright. My tail went rigid and struck the base of my command chair hard enough to leave a mark. Fletcher looked at the silent console, nodded once, and picked up his tape roll. "You'll want that coupling properly replaced within 30 days. He looked around the bridge with the systematic calm of someone taking inventory. "What else needs doing?" I delivered the invasion address. 3 months of preparation. Full armor, dorsal spines elevated, tail positioned for maximum visual dominance. Sayari stood to my left, 4 eyes forward, crest raised, the picture of unified military intent. Fletcher stood at the back of the bridge looking at the pipe running along the upper wall. While I described the 17 fleets positioned at the outer boundary of Earth's solar system, he took 3 slow steps left to see the pipe from a different angle. While I outlined the terms of unconditional surrender, he tapped the wall twice with a small tool and made a note on his flat device. I stopped speaking. Fletcher lowered his light and looked at me. "Sorry, keep going. That pipe's not urgent. Probably another week before it becomes a problem. Before it becomes a problem, I repeated. Hairline stress fracture in the casing. Nothing structural yet. He looked around. Do you have a maintenance log on this vessel? Sayari made a sound from somewhere behind her beak. We have a ship's operational record, I said, with great precision. That'll work, he began typing on his flat device. What's the vessel registry number? My scales rippled again. Neither of us answered, because neither of us had a response protocol for this specific sequence of events, and I have a response protocol for everything. The message from Vrethkai High Command was waiting on the primary screen when we returned to the bridge. I read it once, then again. Sayari read it over my arm, her crest going completely flat. Fletcher had been transported here by a transit routing error. An administrative officer had processed his quarterly maintenance vessel assignment with our coordinates sitting in the adjacent file. Earth's actual military response, their general, their diplomatic corps, their negotiating team, was 8 days away. Name Fletcher was here because someone had filed the wrong transport requisition. I turned around. Fletcher was at the far end of the bridge, shining his light at the joint where the ceiling met the viewport housing, tape roll in his left hand, making quiet notes with his thumb. Fletcher, I said. Yep. Are you aware that you were transported to a Vrethkai Invasion Fleet command vessel? He lowered the light, looked at me, looked at the combat lighting, the holographic fleet display, the weapons status indicators glowing red along the far wall, looked back at me. I thought it was a long-haul freight carrier, he said. Registry listed it as commercial class. A pause. Is it not a freight carrier? Sayari's 4 eyes moved to 4 completely different points in the room and held there. Her beak opened. Her crest shot straight up. Her vestigial feather wings flared outward from her forearms and knocked her briefing tablet off the console edge. It hit the floor and slid 4 feet. Fletcher watched the tablet slide, looked at Sayari, looked at the weapon indicators. Huh, he said. Then he looked at the ceiling joint. That housing seal is compromised, by the way. You'll want to fix that before any high-pressure transit. My tail knocked my command chair off the platform entirely. We took Fletcher to the weapons bay because Sayari had suggested, in a very tight whisper, that keeping him in one location might limit the scope of whatever was happening. The weapons bay was wide, low-ceilinged, harshly lit. It smelled of burnt circuitry that our engineering team had also classified as cosmetic. I was developing serious concerns about our engineering team when Fletcher walked in, looked at the weapon arrays, and crouched in front of the nearest access panel. The casing was warm. These arrays operated at 4,000 degrees. Our crew approached them with insulated equipment and considerable respect. Fletcher touched the casing with his bare fingers, tilted his head, and said, "This one's running hot." "They operate at 4,000 degrees, Sayari said from the doorway. "The array does. The housing shouldn't be warm at rest." He tried the access panel. Security lock. 12-digit command authorization required. Fletcher looked at it for 2 seconds, produced a flat tool from his chest pocket, inserted it into the panel edge, and the panel opened. I looked at Sayari. Her 2 temple eyes had closed completely. Self-protective, I suspected. Fletcher reached into the array housing with both hands. I took one involuntary step forward. He made 2 adjustments with the bent screwdriver, tore a strip of tape from his roll, pressed it across what I assumed was the conductor bracket, smoothed it flat, and closed the panel. He stood up, dusted his hands on his coveralls. The array's status indicator, Amber, for 11 days, turned green. The output reading climbed, past 100% rated capacity, past 200. It paused at 290 as if considering its options, then settled at 340%, holding steady with a clean, consistent hum the array had apparently never produced before. "That should hold," Fletcher said. He looked at the output reading with mild interest. "Huh? That's running well." Sayari's 4 eyes snapped to the display. Her crest shot to full extension. Her feather wings flared. "That is 340% of rated capacity," she said, in a voice doing its best to remain professional. "Conductor was misaligned. Seat it properly and efficiency goes up." He patted the array housing. "Good array. Solid construction." He looked at me. "Military application?" "Yes," I said, through what I am calling controlled vocal delivery. "Makes sense." He made a note. "How many arrays in here?" My scales went pale silver from collar to tail. My tail wrapped around my own left leg. 36, Sayari said. Her voice was completely flat. All 4 eyes were on Fletcher, each pointing in a slightly different direction, which meant her internal cognitive state had exceeded what her neurology was designed to manage. Fletcher looked at the rows of arrays, looked at his tape roll, looked at his flat device, apparently calculating. "I can get through all of them today if we start now." I looked at Sayari. Sayari looked at me. 4 seconds of silence between 2 officers who have served together for 6 years and have a shorthand for most tactical situations. This situation did not have a shorthand. This situation was not in any document I had ever read. "Flag the urgent ones," I said. An hour later, we were on the observation deck because I needed to sit down. The curved viewport stretched the full width of the room. Outside, 212 invasion vessels held formation. The full weight of Vrethkai military projection capability, 18 hanging in space while their supreme field commander sat on a bench next to a human engineer eating something from a container he had produced from his 14th pocket. Sayari stood at the viewport with her arms crossed, all 4 eyes on the fleet. "When you boarded," I said, "the honor guard, the combat lighting, the weapon displays." I paused. Did none of that suggest this was not a freight carrier? Fletcher considered this. "The honor guard was formal," he said, "but some freight operators run a tight ship." He looked at his container. The red lighting was aggressive, bad for focus. He offered me the container. I declined. I figured I'd flag it to crew welfare when I got back. Sayari turned from the viewport. Her 2 forward eyes were on Fletcher. Her 2 temple eyes were on the fleet outside, which was an unexpectedly accurate summary of our situation. "You believe this was a freight vessel," she said, "and your response was to catalog the maintenance issues." "That's the job," Fletcher said. He stood, walked to the holographic display table in the corner, and looked at the tactical projection of the fleet formation and the approach trajectory toward Earth. He looked at it for a long moment. He reached into his pocket and produced the bent screwdriver. Sayari made a sharp sound. I stood up. Neither of us moved quickly enough, or perhaps neither of us tried, because Fletcher touched the edge of the holographic model with the screwdriver tip and rotated the projections 30 degrees, studying the approach trajectory from a new angle. "You're going through the debris field," he said. "The trajectory avoids the debris field. Our navigation team avoids the main body," Fletcher said. "The leading dispersion layer extends another 40,000 kilometers past where you have it marked. Hull plating on vessels this size isn't rated for debris impact at this velocity. You'd lose external array housing on your outer formation within 20 minutes. He looked at me. Has your team been through this corridor before? It is our first campaign in this sector, I said very quietly. Fletcher nodded. He reached into his pocket and produced a piece of tape, which he pressed onto the edge of the holographic display table to mark the debris field's actual boundary. If the lead ship adjusts the docking bracket on its forward guidance array by 12 degrees, he said, tapping the tape mark, it cascades a course correction through the whole formation via the automated alignment protocol. Takes you 20,000 kilometers north of the debris field. He straightened up. 40-minute adjustment. No damage to any vessel. He pocketed the screwdriver. Or you proceed on current trajectory, lose array housing on 60 outer vessels, spend 3 weeks on emergency repairs, and arrive at Earth with significantly reduced capacity. He picked up his tape roll. Up to you. I'm just flagging the hazard. The observation deck was silent except for the hum of the fleet systems and the soft sound of Fletcher returning his tape roll to his left hand. Sayari walked to the display. She looked at the tape mark. She looked at the fleet. All 4 eyes, for the first time since Fletcher had arrived, were pointed at exactly the same thing. He is correct, she said. The dispersion layer boundary matches the navigational anomaly our long-range sensors flagged and our team reclassified as instrument drift. I contacted the lead formation ship, authorized the guidance array bracket adjustment, 12 degrees. The cascade correction moved through 212 vessels, clean and sequential, the entire formation shifting 20,000 kilometers north in 40 minutes. The invasion trajectory was gone. My tail lowered, my spines flattened, my scales settled back to resting slate gray. The most complete physical de-escalation of my 17 campaign career, produced by a human with a piece of tape and a display model. Back on the command bridge, I filed the report to Vrethkai High Command. It took 40 minutes to write the accurate version with appropriate framing. I did not, in the initial draft, specify the tape. High Command's response arrived in 20 minutes. They had cross-referenced Fletcher's maintenance log, which he had been transmitting to their general communications channel the entire time under the vessel's registry number, with the weapon array output data, the corridor pipe assessment, the viewport housing report, and the docking bay conduit bracket notation. The response was one line. Stand down invasion protocol. A species that deploys maintenance personnel with this operational profile to a frontline engagement represents an unknown threat category requiring full strategic review before further action. Sayari read it over my arm. They think he was deployed intentionally, she said. I know. He wasn't. I know. We looked at Fletcher, who was crouched at the far end of the bridge, having apparently noticed something while we were filing the report. Whoever did the initial fit-out ran the power conduits on the wrong side of the structural supports, he said, not looking up. You're losing about 8% transmission efficiency across the whole ship. He sat back on his heels. Can't fix that today. That's a refit job, but I'll document it. Sayari looked at me with 2 eyes. The other 2 were checking the conduit routing along the ceiling. Document it, I said. Fletcher transmitted the full maintenance report to our ship's operational record. The screen populated with 31 line items. The top item read, Docking bay conduit bracket, installed backwards, urgent. The last item read, Commander's platform chair mounting, loose bolt, low priority, tighten at convenience. I looked at my command chair, still on the floor where my tail had knocked it. "Fletcher," I said. "Yep." "The invasion of your planet has been canceled as a direct result of your maintenance assessment." He looked up from his device, looked at me, looked at Sayuri, looked at the fleet display showing 212 vessels in adjusted formation. "Huh," he said. "Huh," I said. "The debris field was a real hazard," he said reasonably. "And the weapon arrays needed the bracket work." "Yes." "And the console was a fire risk." "It was classified as non-urgent." "By who?" I paused. "Our engineering team." Fletcher said nothing. His expression said everything, in the particular register of a maintenance professional with opinions about other people's engineering assessments that he is keeping to himself out of basic courtesy. Sayari's two temple eyes drifted slowly in opposite directions. Her two forward eyes stayed on Fletcher with an expression that 6 years of partnership gave me the ability to read. "I have updated my threat assessment 18 times today, and I am still not finished." "Does anyone have anything to eat on this ship?" Fletcher asked. "It's been a long day." I looked at him. I looked at the fleet outside. 212 vessels, 17 campaigns, 4 annexations, a roll of gray tape. "Crew bay," I said, "down the corridor." Fletcher pocketed his device, tucked his tape roll under his left arm, and walked out with the easy stride of someone who has had a productive day and is looking forward to dinner. Sayari watched the door close, turned to me. "I need to rewrite the entire human threat assessment database," she said. "Yes." "Do I start with the tape or the screwdriver?" I picked up my command chair, set it back on the platform, and sat down. "Start with the tape," I said. "We'll be here a while." Outside, the 17th Vrethkai Conquest Fleet held position 40,000 kilometers north of the debris field, waiting for orders that were not coming. I filed my final report. I noted the tape. I noted the screwdriver. I noted the 31 maintenance items and the weapon array at 340% capacity, and the debris field boundary, and the guidance bracket, and the chair bolt. In the notes field, I wrote, "Recommend full strategic review before re-engagement. Also recommend replacing our engineering team." I submitted it. From somewhere down the corridor, faintly, I heard Fletcher ask the empty ship where the crew bay was. My dorsal spines rose once, briefly, and settled flat. Some questions, I have decided, are not worth pursuing.